Good. I'm glad that Roger's exasperated "I'm so tired" didn't quite make the broadcast. Actually, I'm sorry about that. All right, here we go. Daily Tech News Show is powered by its audience, not outside organizations. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News Show, definitely for Thursday, December 29th, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt, alongside almost the entire DTNS crew assembled here. I'm going to break down the illusion really early on a Sunday morning, honestly. So I want to just first start off by saying how impressed I am that all of you made it, and thank you very much. I'll answer at once.
I mean, really?
Yes.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning.
I haven't showered. It smells terrible.
All come together.
I was up anyway.
That's right. You're on the East Coast, so it's a little easier for you. Well, the one person who hasn't quite made it in here, and we think there may be some technical difficulties, Scott Johnson, hopefully will join us at some point. But we're going to go through on this show and look at the things we predicted last year in our predictions show. I love to do this, and we've been doing it, Veronica and I have been doing it since back in the Buzz Out Loud days, because everyone makes predictions, but nobody ever goes back to check and just see. And it's such a great perspective setting to see what I thought was going to happen last year and then realized how far or maybe how close I was. Sometimes the ones I get right for the wrong reason. Anyway, it's all very interesting. So we will start off with you, Ms. Veronica Belmont. We have your prediction that the virtual reality industry would fix the motion sickness issue that keeps you out of VR gaming.
It has gotten better, but it's still a problem. So this was not true. I did not predict.
So you're not going to give yourself credit for this one.
I'm still pretty bearish on this. It's still definitely an issue. I've read a bunch of articles recently saying that, people are still having trouble. It's still with PlayStation VR, it has definitely gotten better. But I don't know if there's ever going to be a fix for it.
All the things people tried to do in Second Life will start happening in virtual reality in 2016.
What did I mean by that exactly?
Flying penises? I don't know.
What do you guys think? What does the panel think? Do we feel like we're seeing some Second Life style things happening with VR yet?
I think that you can pay out on that in Linden dollars. My prediction is, and I don't know if people are really using persistent social interaction, which is what Second Life
right
was.
Persistent and sort of recreation of existing representations of existing brands that people could interact with in that persistent world. And doesn't
I think if PlayStation were to do a home-like scenario with VR, in the last month of this year, then maybe, but I don't think that's going to be the case. So I'm going to say wrong on that.
Yeah. The next one, personal smart software bots will inhabit every platform and piece of software. Now, if we take this literally, then you're not going to get credit for it, but because that would be impossible to inhabit every single piece of software. But I think what you meant was, hey, all the major platforms are going to have this. People are going to be using it more and more inside of software. I'm willing to give this to you, especially because it infected you yourself as you started working for a platform.
That's true. I started working for a bot company. So I think that's, I think pretty much every chat platform at this point, with the exception of maybe WhatsApp, has bots built into it. I think we're going to see it on, we're seeing it in messages. I think we're seeing it in a lot of, Facebook Messenger is huge. Slack is huge. So I'll give myself this one.
All right. Anyone, any objections to that from the panel?
Anyone want to fight me?
I just feel like CanServe and NixServe kind of deserve the credit for being OG. I just want to throw that out
Just
there.
a little honorarium. Yeah, I think that's fair. And then finally, someone will die on one of those bull crap hoverboards. Scott Johnson agreed with this one as well.
People have died. There have been
died.
Not for the people have died. People had died in 2015 as well. I just didn't know that. I went back and looked. There have been deaths around hoverboards. No one has died in a hoverboard explosion, which I think is what I was inferring.
Yeah, I think that's what you were meaning. Also, if someone had already died in a hoverboard accident, you can't really get credit for prediction.
Well, no. Technically, she's saying someone will die on one of those bullcrap hoverboards in 2016. It's true.
That's sad. You're right. You predicted this teenage boy that got hit by a bus.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty sad. It's pretty sad.
Yeah.
You should have. Yeah.
Take your victory, you ghoul.
I still think they're terrible. I still hate them. People are still riding them. They're still not wearing helmets. So be safe out there, people. In 2017.
The one thing I will say is they have a lot, like Amazon stopped selling them if they're uncertified. There have been standards enforced on them. So it has become a safer arena than it was, even if it isn't entirely safe yet.
But now we've got those skateboards with the pushy things and the guys riding around those and the Birkenstocks and the whatnots, and I'm not okay with it.
Yeah.
The motorized skateboards.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, those have been kicking around since the 70s.
Well, you can hold on to your ghoulish prediction for that one, for the prediction.
I will. Oh, I will.
All right. Jenny Josephson, you had one from last year that blank rooms will start to be a feature in some homes with only the monitor and the VR hardware, blank walls for sensors, no other furniture. It was basically a VR room. And your metric for success was there would be a New York Times article about it.
So sadly, and I put this failure squarely on the New York Times, there has not yet been an article extolling the need for an extra room for VR, but that's not to say it's not happening. I did like a little wider search to see if there was any, like, you know, the thing that the New York Times looks, you know, the blogs that then trickles up to the style section, and I still haven't seen it. So I'm going to call myself a little too ahead of the curve. I bet you there'll be one in a couple years from now.
Yeah, that's always my problem with predictions is I make them too far in advance, not for the coming year. I make predictions that might come true 5 years down the road. Right. I don't even think this one will be 5 years though. And like you said, I mean, technically it is starting to be a feature that could be offered to you in your home. It just didn't meet our metric for success. So I'd give you half credit for this one for sure.
All right, I'll take it.
Easily.
No, you can't give the super dumb style section easy three like source trend piece. Like either that happens or that doesn't. I'm gonna be a stickler on this one.
All right.
I'm just gonna say that I don't care, and I'm gonna know in my heart that I got half credit for my.
Brutal.
Under DTNS rules, no credit. Under current geek scoring rules, half credit. Patrick Beja, we move to you. Facebook will launch a VR chat app, will probably suck at first, and people will not use it at first.
So technically, no, it didn't happen. We did, however, get a preview of the Facebook things that they're trying at the Oculus Connect conference back in, was it September, earlier in the year?
Yeah, in the fall.
And and I think that is what may ultimately become that, but it's still very much in the demo stages, and it didn't come out. So
it didn't launch, but then they introduced. If you had but one word different here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, possibly. And the thing is, I think if they had just introduced it and it was whatever, it would have been fine. But it was really cool. I think it was something really interesting in exploring what can be done in VR, and especially with the touch controllers. So yeah, it didn't happen, but it might not be too far off.
Any credit for that? Because I mean, Facebook totally did announce that. They just didn't launch it.
Ask the Grinch.
What is it? It's a VR chat app?
Yeah, do you remember when they showed off the avatar chat using your Oculus Rift, and you could have your telepresence? There was a Zuckerberg.
Yeah, no, I think that's legit. That's legit.
All right.
He said launch.
Yeah, I did say launch. And the thing is, if you just imagine that Facebook will do something like this, obviously they're going to. So just predicting they will really doesn't amount to any kind of prediction. So the real prediction is that they would launch it, I feel. So I'm burying myself.
Patrick, don't sell yourself short. Just say it was a paper launch and give yourself the point.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm a lot less passionate about it when it's not involving making fun of the New York Times style section.
Well, and also we want to be nice to Patrick on that one because, man, did you blow the next one. The Slack bubble will burst, and everyone else on the panel said Slack will rule the world in 2016.
Do you guys feel it's ruling the world?
Well,
yes.
I feel it's ruling
no one rules the world, Patrick.
No, okay, fine. But I feel it's ruling the geeks Okay, the way I will put it is it didn't burst, definitely didn't burst, but I feel it's still very much into the geek sphere, and it's not so much farther ahead that it was a year ago. It was super exciting a year ago.
If your prediction had said Slack will rule the world and be a mainstream product that your parents and grandparents know about and are using, I would say that definitely would have been wrong. It's definitely still a very much in the tech space kind of thing. I think it's there. No, yeah. I mean, I work directly with Slack. They would agree. Like they are still they're trying to move into the enterprise space, but it is not a mainstream product yet. And I think Microsoft Teams especially is going to give them a big run for their money because they're already implanted in so many enterprise offices throughout the world.
Yeah,
but that's the validation, right? The validation is that Microsoft had to try to head them off.
But it's not Slack. It's another way of approaching of solving the same issue. It's definitely doing, influencing the business world in that sense. But it's not Slack itself. Again, I'm not saying I got it right.
Take the L.
And I would also just add, it's not just tech companies. That's one sector of the economy. It's media companies. Like I work for a rather traditional radio station turned radio network that started in 1967, and they just shifted their entire company over to Slack. So I kind of think maybe it's off by a year or two, because it's usually as tech companies, media companies, and then enterprise solution, right? So
I'm going to say that there was one that actually predated that, which was open source projects and hackers who have been using Slack since the early 90s. I've been slacking on irc.dal.net. We've got a Slack running on irc.hack5.org. My favorite Slack client is probably XChat or maybe MIRC.
Yeah, but those are IRC though. They're not like.
No, I know. I'm trying to.
I understand, but what I'm saying is they're coming from, these are bottom up approaches. Like these are even at media companies, Slack is there probably because the engineering team or the geeks at the company wanted to use it, and other people saw how popular it was. It's not coming from the top down yet.
It's not too late. It's not too late for Patrick to get into the French election, I think, with that amazing pivot away from talking about his entirely wrong prediction that the Slack bubble would burst into evaluating our joking reaction. Are you kidding? It will rule the world, and then evaluating it. Meanwhile,
planned it all.
Your next prediction: there will be a serious instance of non-state sponsored cyber terrorism. I would argue is true with the DDoS against against Dyn and the takedown of several domains like Twitter, etc.
Right.
Terrorism is arguable about whether that's what that was, but it was definitely a serious instance of non-state sponsored attack.
Yeah, and the thing about the keyword being, one of the keywords is terrorism, and we don't know that it was specifically terrorism. And to be quite frank, we don't even know if it was non-state sponsored. I don't know. It
was the Mirai botnet, and it was likely from a hacking group. Yes, it's potential that a state got them to do it, but it's not necessarily assumed.
It feels like it was more of a test for a potential subsequent attack because here it just didn't have significant results beyond the fact that the internet broke for a couple of days, which is big enough, but it wasn't like it coordinated with something else. So again, I'm not sure I would give myself this one. Am I being too modest? Am I being too...
After that amazing Slack pivot? No.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Darren, how would you rule on this one?
I'm gonna save that one for Len, because that was a riff off of Len's prediction about other hacking.
Okay, we'll evaluate those together. The final Patrick one is the Nintendo NX will launch before the end of 2016, and we'll have Zelda as a launch title. It'll double launch with the Wii U. Man, you're so close.
So close.
So
close.
So we went back and listened to the episode when they announced finally the Switch. And I did mention something like fiscal year 2016. Like I specifically said before the end of March 2017. And that was my exact prediction, I believe. Zelda, though, it's looking like it's not going to be a launch title, which puts it back into the non-accurate prediction side. So again, I feel like I'm half and half.
But Zelda's going to come soon, and it's going to double launch. Like, I really want to give it to you.
Oh, well, then you can. Okay, it's fine.
But I won't.
Hey.
Let's go to Darren. Darren said we will see the emergence of not quite game, not quite movie entertainment products like the Star Trek holonovel. We'll also see the first ever IP lawsuit regarding VR, including some kind of DMCA takedown.
I didn't see it. Did you?
I didn't.
No.
Anyone? And I don't know what a holonovel-esque experience is outside of maybe the recreation of Zork in VR.
You know what? I'm actually going to give this to you because I think products like Foo, and I know of other companies that are making not quite game, not quite like media stuff that are like experiences in VR that are in line with what you're talking about, kind of.
And I'm gonna gladly take it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say right now, especially the Steam VR space is very, very. Even the games are kind of demo-y, and they're kind of experience-y and storytelling like things. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm more inclined to give Darren that.
All right, there you go. You get the holonovel. I mean, close enough.
Yeah, that feels like one will look back at in 2029 and think, really, were those?
I don't know if that was really it. Spectacle Fest will be canceled, but we knew that. So I don't know if we can really give you that. Give you that as a prediction.
I always have hope. So
yeah, me too.
I'm with Veronica on this one. I
think you definitely called no VR from Apple in 2016. And a lot of people thought Apple would come with VR in 2016. So it's not as crazy as it sounds in retrospect.
Really?
Yeah, because they can't Me Too it. They've got to Apple it up. And I don't know what
Patrick doesn't want to give that one to you, though.
No, I'm just, did anyone, they didn't come out with it. But
I don't know that anyone on this panel did, but there were lots of buzz of like, oh, Apple's going to develop VR. And we haven't seen any. We've seen that they have some research in that arena, but nothing that would indicate they're coming with a product. Finally, Department of Transportation and the FAA will accept recommendations of the task force and will have a registration exception for 250 grams or 8.8 ounces until there's an incident with an unregistered drone centered around size and thrust.
Well, half right.
Yeah, you nailed the first half.
But the first half was kind of obvious because the recommendation from the special task force was already submitted to the FAA and they just adopted it. There hasn't been an incident, which is great. Why was I making morbid predictions like Veronica?
Because you wanted to be right.
There's always that. Not like this is a competition whatsoever. Although I'm going to go back up in the doc and make this one bold.
Oh yes, please do. You're correct in doing that. You did get the Star Trek holonovel one right. You can't bold the Spectacle Fest.
I'm just going to start.
Export control will be put in place on quantum encryption.
I am actually on the one hand, I wouldn't want such a thing to be done. On the other hand, I'm saddened because this means that quantum computers aren't at a place yet where the powers that be feel that they need to be placed on export control lists, which is
we're not even having a discussion about it. That's unfortunate. We wish quantum encryption was good enough that we'd be having an argument about whether it should be controlled, right?
Right. I want the PlayStations that can't go to Iran. I want that happening. Not that I don't want them to get PlayStations. I mean, I just want to know that we have PlayStations that are quantum computers.
Yeah.
That would just be epic.
Too far ahead. You might still be right on this down the line, though.
I hope next year.
Justin Robert Young, we turn to you.
Yeah.
Uber will lose their class action lawsuit. Uber's reaction will be to press more state legislators to pass laws in their favor. This will become a presidential election campaign promise to fight for the little guy. Elements in here, they settled the lawsuit. They didn't lose it. They definitely are lobbying legislatures, and things about rider rights did become a bit of a campaign issue.
It was about to actually become in an alternate Rick and Morty universe where this was a normal presidential election and not the craziest thing anyone's ever seen in their lives. There was initial kind of battle lines being drawn. Like Jeb Bush was making a big point to take an Uber for a campaign event. Hillary Clinton had some talking points about, sticking up, like maybe being critical of the gig economy and stuff like that. And then, of course, 2016 happened and literally any and everything kind of went out the window. So what I thought was kind of a layup certainly wound up not panning out in terms of the presidential issue.
You also said we will all be making VR predictions next year, meaning this year, because none of these that we made in last year's show would come true. But since we gave Darren his, that sort of took away yours.
Yeah,
Well-
you had it, Justin.
I know. Well, technically, yeah, I guess his prediction was not necessarily VR focused. We gave him credit for the win because of a VR product, but I think we'll see when we do the prediction show whether or not I was right that people will still be making VR predictions into 2017.
I think that's a given. We will be making VR predictions in 2017.
Well, there we
That's
go.
Like, you know,
Then in
my
the win
prediction
column.
is that we will be making predictions next year.
Yeah,
There you go.
I think
when we
the
wrap up
larger
podcast. Why don't you sign off first, Justin? I just need to talk to the rest of the crew.
I think the larger issue is that this was thought to be kind of the year that VR broke out, and although there have been certainly promising signs, specifically with PlayStation VR and all the money that's going into there, and the Vive has had a tremendous year, I don't think that this might have been the embryonic year that VR kind of grew up a little bit and got ready to be a mainstream thing, but it certainly is not.
So if you had to argue against half credit earlier, I'd be tempted to give you half credit here.
Oh no, I'm fine. I can take my own.
All right. Batman versus Superman will be considered the worst comic book movie of all time, sub 20 on Rotten Tomatoes, and someone at Warner Brothers will lose their job. It's 28 on Rotten Tomatoes.
27%.
27 now, I think.
Oh, is it down to 27 already?
Yeah, so you know it's going down. The year is not over yet.
The year isn't over.
Still got time.
But you know what? I would probably, had you added, it will be considered one of the worst comic book movies of all time, I would definitely have agreed. It is a terrible movie, and I know people are contentious about this.
It's
but
bad.
It is.
It's a bad movie. There's nothing redeeming about it. Other than maybe you get to see potentially what the Justice League looks like. But even then, you
By
feel kind of let
email.
down.
Wonder Woman's the
email.
best part of that movie.
And she's not even really in it, all except, for the 10 minutes at the end.
Hey, we got to find out that Wonder Woman has email, which I was very excited to find out. And
Have you been
she also
emailing her
has
too?
She also has some questionable cognition on the fact that an attachment is not an actual picture, which maybe she's just kind of getting up to speed on that. So, listen, it in hindsight, it was the most I've laughed in the theater. In 2016. So I personally have very fond memories of going to see Batman versus Superman, but the head of DC's the DC movie franchise did wind up switching over, and now they have new leadership there. So technically somebody did get reassigned because of how bad that movie was.
All right, let's go to Len Peralta. Len, you said there's going to be a major cyber attack on a major city next year.
Yeah.
Transportation, communication, or basic services.
Yes.
Now, there was a hack of the San Francisco transportation system over
There was also
Thanksgiving
something
weekend.
overseas. Yeah, there was also something overseas earlier in the year, but it wasn't as dire as I had predicted here.
Yeah, this
Neither
was
one of them were.
This did not affect the actual transportation portion. It affected the ticket buying. So I'm not sure like how nitpicky we want to be about
Well,
this.
Darren, you wanted to weigh in on this.
Yeah,
So.
I wanted to. Well, in hindsight, I maybe was a little bit wrong and right about what I had said in response to Len's prediction was that no, I don't think we're going to see anything that's going to be shutting down trains and turning off power. Although I think in 2016 we will see cyber attacks that affect like politicians, things like leaks of emails and things of that nature that can sway popular opinion. And we may.
Did you predict that last year? Really?
I did actually predict email leaks.
Wow.
You said that in response. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't part of your main predictions, but
It wasn't,
we should
but
give you credit for it.
I definitely
That's crazy.
did a prediction about data breaches.
Yeah, no, Darren gets retroactive points for that.
I think it's that old
I think
star.
that one might be like the prediction of the show. Like you get a crown or something.
That is
Almost
crazy.
too good, Darren.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did you know that?
Well, you see,
Molodets.
there's a team, and we collaborate on this Slack-like thing. Except that it's
Извините, я спешу на автобус.
You know what, Darren? If you could abstain from making predictions for next year, that would be awesome. That would be great.
Actually, in the same vein, along the lines of talking about how Slack will rule the world, I mentioned that we'll see the emergence of an encrypted hosted Slack alternative, and we did. It came from Spider Oak. It's called Semaphore.
There you go.
Hey,
Also,
look at that.
Developed by Darren Kitchen. No, I'm just
No.
Len's other predictions. Tony Bennett, Lady Gaga, and Justin Bieber will team up to do a Netflix special from the moon through SpaceX. Sadly, did not happen.
Yeah, it's not true.
Yeah.
Although we did get the White Rabbit project with Grant Imahara, Carrie Byron, and Tori Belleci. They're kind of like my Tony.
They're
Bennett,
the Tony
Lady
Bennett,
Gaga.
Lady
Yeah.
Gaga, and Justin Bieber of myth busting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's so much coming out on Netflix. You know, anything could have happened that last year. So
Just throwing spaghetti against the wall.
Yeah.
A certain artist who works on DTNS will have multiple games out for Steve Jackson.
yeah, I think that came true. I hit that.
It did. There seems to be some insider knowledge involved there.
Yeah, it
though.
seems
A little bit, yeah, a little bit unfair. But
All
yes,
right.
but that did come true though. So
All right, we're going to still give Scott Johnson a little time, although we're not seeing any signs of life from him this morning. I'm sure he's fine. My predictions, I said virtual emojis will happen, and they didn't.
What does that even mean?
I was thinking in VR again that there would be like these emojis that would actually animate and smile and things. No, just didn't. No, nothing. There will be a Magic Leap development kit by the end of 2016. I think I should get points for having the most wrong prediction.
I wrote the ha 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 on the document. by the
Oh
way.
my God! You know like some like casinos have like bad beat bonuses. Like if there's like a statistically historic like bad beat, I think like you definitely get paid out on that.
Yeah, for sure. That was my plan the whole time. And finally, some phone company will market their faster service as 5G, even though it's probably carrier aggregation or just LTEU. That did not happen. However, we did see AT&T making a bunch of marketing hay over launching 5G as a test service that Intel is helping them test. Do I get anything for that?
Well, is it actual 5G?
Yeah, it's actual 5G, unfortunately.
No.
Unfortunately.
Well, there we go. All right. In absentia, we will return to Scott Johnson's predictions. And he said one day that artists like himself and Len will be able to draw in 3D space, walk around their drawings, paint with hands, create a virtual palette and canvas to work on, hit a button and have it print or be sent to a client, becomes a virtual maker space, which is then translated in the real world. I mean, Len, it's not there this year. I think he just shot too far ahead.
yeah, and you know what? It's interesting to think. I think we're probably maybe not a year, but maybe about 2 years ahead of there. And my prediction on Scott's prediction is that when it does come out, greatest thing in the world.
Wait, hold
what?
on. Wait,
It won't be the greatest thing.
Oh, okay.
Is I think I saw something where people
Disney has
used.
Disney has it. So it's like at the Disney level right now.
It was a demo. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a
No,
demo.
there is a I can't remember who does it, but there is basically a 3D paint software for VR, which is
Yeah,
essentially
Google,
that.
yeah.
But can't remember if it's Sony, Google, someone. But you can't quite. I don't know how it works if you want to put it out in the real world. Like
I thought I saw that somebody pushed Google Paint in VR stuff like to a 3D printer. I thought I saw something like that.
So maybe Scott's closer to being right than we thought. There's also the Microsoft HoloPaint stuff.
Yeah, I think the consumer level of this stuff, when it finally hits, is going to be underwhelming. That's my prediction on that.
Yeah, Scott had said that it was going to be something, coming out of the likes of Adobe.
Right.
Oh,
and,
okay.
and
A little
the-
too soon, maybe.
And I think what you're thinking of, Justin, is if not what Microsoft's doing, something similar where you can create an object in VR and then print it. But that's different. Scott was saying you'd be able to like just paint by walking around in a virtual space. So
Yeah, I mean, that basically is what Google Paint is, right? Is
tilt
3D
brush, right?
tilt
Yeah.
brush? Yeah, that's it.
all right.
Interestingly, happened in the sense of augmented reality, just not virtual reality. Products from Autodesk like 123D Catch and Remake allow you to take photos from multiple angles of a real-world object, import them into using photogrammetry techniques as a 3D mesh, and then export them directly from that program to a 3D printer.
If he changes one day to the first programs that start to allow, he nails this. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
If only we could write the predictions and word them after the year.
Well, this is the lesson, right? Make your prediction as least specific as possible.
Make them patents.
Yeah. Absolutely. You speak
A
from
method
experience,
for drawing elements in virtual space, and then something.
Drawing will happen.
Scott also said, I believe that in the next year, Facebook will have some sort of search product that encourages people to stay in Facebook, but also gives you information from the outside world.
Hmm.
Nothing. There's
No.
nothing I could think of that's close to that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't go that way.
They're including more and more of the outside world inside Facebook, but not search yet.
And finally, he absolutely nailed this. And some people were still laughing at him in December of last year. Mad Max gets an Oscar nomination.
So wait a second. Who was laughing at that? I want the names
Not
right
you,
now.
Patrick.
That was a shoe-in. At 10 movies, of course it was going to get one.
Yeah.
There were people mocking him, though.
Who?
This is
In the
no,
chat
this is
room,
his,
on
this is-
Twitter.
This is his straw man, man. Like he always has this persecution complex for that movie. Like he was the only person who ever liked it.
Oh.
He really wanted it to be an indie film that no one knew about.
Exactly.
Like, I liked it before everyone else.
It was an indie movie originally, but at this point, I don't think it counts as an indie.
It's like,
I
oh my god, this is a great movie. It's gonna get an Oscar nomination. And everyone's like, yeah, we know. And he's like, no, but for real, stop making fun of me.
All right. Finally, our VR lawsuit was a consensus prediction, by the way. All of us agreed that there would be some sort of lawsuit around virtual reality, whether it was tripping or nausea or this or that. I can't say for certain there hasn't been some lawsuit out there that involved VR, but we haven't had a big one that grabbed
So
headlines.
wait a second. The ZeniMax suing Oculus, does that count? It's
that's not what we were talking about. User.
IP.
But maybe wait. Maybe it could be. We don't
Sure.
Well, you can make that prediction Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
What we did, it was not a lawsuit, but what we did start to see a little bit of that, real world element kind of make its way into VR with that whole sexual harassment a story that kind of blew up. So we are starting to see that. Although I am shocked that somebody hasn't just totally tripped over their Vive cord and died, because as much as I love that thing, it's a literal death trap.
Come on, what's up with the morbid?
Yeah. Let's.
Oh no, I'm just surprised because I've definitely fallen over, like twirling around and shooting people in VR, and then realizing that like my entire leg is wrapped around the cord.
Well, I think this is an instructive moment where we all see these things and say, well, somebody's definitely going to get hurt and sue. And it didn't happen. It doesn't always happen.
I would say, I think it's too early. I think the level of ambulance chasing on this is still too early. And what
Thank you
need,
for bringing an element of rational pessimism into this.
It's this is the thing. It's like early adopters are always willing to accept certain penalties, including physical ailments, just to be the first ones on the block to try it. But once it becomes a more widely accepted product, I'm sure you'll.
So you're saying it has less to do with people being more responsible than we imagine, and more to do with adoption rate?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you or someone you love been injured in a VR accident?
You know what, Justin? You have the perfect name for your law office. Contact jury.
Exactly.
It even has a legal
Jury
element to it.
is in.
You could do your own Law Hawk commercial. That'd be great.
should.
It'll
I
be
know.
VR.
Or you could join Kitchen and Howl because we laminate and litigate.
All right. Well, that is it. Thank you again to everybody for listening throughout the year and supporting us. And big thanks to Scott Johnson for his predictions from last year. We're sorry he couldn't make it in here. Let's go around the table real quick before we get out of here and head back to our holidays because it's December 29th and we need to start preparing for New Year's. Darren Kitchen, where can folks find you?
HAK, the number 5.org, where you can learn how to exfiltrate documents from your friends' computers. I like to call it an involuntary backup. It's important to back up your files, folks. Learn how to do that.
It's important to back up other people's files, apparently.
HAK5.org. It's great for systems administration and white hat stuff, too.
I've got a white hat on. I understand. Jenny Josephson, where can people find you?
So we have a new Tell It Anyway out after so many months of failing to do so. So that's exciting, tellitanyway.com. And also, if it's December 29th, we have just finished doing a bunch of mini preview shows for a new podcast launching in January called Make Me Smart with Kyra's Doll and Mollywood. If you want to go check it out, do marketplace.org/make me smart, sign up. I don't think you'll be terribly disappointed.
Go check it out. Justin Robert Young, what do you got?
Everybody can go buy The Contender, thecontender.us until the end of the year. I think we're going to keep the special 1776 pricing on the base deck, and you can get it for a little bit cheaper on Amazon too. So head on over there. However you like it, we will ship it to you. thecontender.us.
Len Peralta, thank you for all your drawings all year long. Go check it out, lenperaltastore.com. And what else you got to tell people about with only a couple of days left in the new year?
Well, geez, if you want to actually hire that certain artist who works on DTNS, who had multiple games and comics out for Steve Jackson Games, just go to lenperalta.com. Check out everything there, and you'll go down the rabbit hole and figure out how to get in touch with me. So,
Patrick Beja, how about yourself?
I was really glad to wake up so early to be with you all on this Sunday morning.
Like 7 in the evening where you are?
Something like that. But if you want to have a little bit of fun with gaming or with international politics and news, go to frenchspin.com. You'll find a show for each, and maybe for itching as well. And they're both excellent. Frenchspin.com.
Veronica Belmont, how about you?
VeronicaBelmont.com, Grobot.io, and swordandlaser.com.
And of course, our daily producer, Roger Chang, now located in the Los Angeles area. He's been settled in for several weeks now. Everything's totally fine. Those aren't boxes behind him.
No, these are just residual items.
Yeah. Those are props to make it look good. Roger, anything for you to tell people about?
I don't know.
You can make a hiring plea like Len.
I will say just to follow me on Twitter at Jolly Roger, and you'll learn more about me.
All right. Once again, thank you to every single person who supports our show. dailytechnewsshow.com/support gives you all the different ways. Of course, our patrons provide our main source of funding at patreon.com/DTNS. Thank you for making this year possible. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We'll be back live starting in January, Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. Our website is dailytechnewsshow.com, and back tomorrow with our predictions for 2017. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Say Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. I got to pay my mortgage.